Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Can we get a thread about experiences that aren't necessarily paranormal, but still scary? Be me. Walking around in the woods at like 2 in the morning. Come across a bunch of trash and scraps of clothing. Pissed that some asshole left his stuff out here, but also weirded out because nobody ever camps outside of the nearby state park. There's meth cooks out here that will shoot you on sight. Hear the leaves behind me rustling. Pull out the pistol I brought with me. Search around, see nothing. Turn around and start walking away. Rustling leaves again. This time when I turn around, there's a guy there. He's naked and looks like he hasn't eaten in weeks. Probably a meth head, because he's twitchy. Try and ask him if he's okay. He just starts backing up. I halfway turn around and walk away. Get about a quarter out of the woods. Hear the rustling leaves again. This time he's not walking. The thing is sprinting faster than anything I've ever seen towards me. I myself start hauling ass away from him. Run harder than I ever have in my life for what feels like miles. He's easily keeping pace with me, but never tries to trip me or anything. Get out of the woods. Don't even try and look back for him. Just get in my car and do like 100 miles per hour, all the way back to my house. Lock all the doors in my house and sleep with my shotgun at my side.
Meth heads are scary when they're strung out. I've had so many problems with meth heads before the cops busted the lab and took the dude to federal. They never tried to hurt me, but knowing they broke into my house, rental house, shed, literally the dealer stole our lawnmower to use to get money by cutting people's lawns but would put it back, and stole our mail was both unsettling and infuriating. Especially since we knew who was doing it, but the cops couldn't do anything without physical proof. Okay, so as mentioned in my last post, I have a small rental house at the back of my property. Just a one-roomed thing, nothing fancy. But this is when meth started getting big in my state, so I figured I'd start with this one. Be about 8 or 9, the rental property hasn't been lived in since we moved into the house. I was 7. At times, whenever I'd go outside to get my dog, I swear I could see people moving in the one window that wasn't boarded up, always spooked. Nothing ever came of it whenever my mom would investigate. Figures it's just my imagination. Friends with neighbors across the street, and the older brother is friends with these pot dealers next door. Have known the pot dealers since I moved in, nice family. Over at neighbors across the street, derping around with my friend. The older brother and the pot dealer's kids are hanging outside too, and one of the sons casually goes, "Yeah, I heard, some teenager they were friends with ran away. Might want to be careful, Anon, he told me he was living in your rental house." Me being young, I was just like, what? Strangers? Oh God. Forget all about it, however. Though I warn my mom and she brushes me off. A week or so later, this car pulls into our driveway through the alley. We're connected by the main street and the alley, and we hear them knocking on the rental house's door. Mom eventually goes out, learns that one of the guy's son apparently said he was living in our rental house, and my mom was like, no one's moved in. Not even an hour later, cops show up unannounced at our house and ask to search our property. He starts with our house, finds nothing. When he goes out to the rental property, he ends up coming back out 10 minutes later with 2 teenagers in handcuffs, calls back up, etc. Mom has no idea WTF is going on. Cue me going, I told you, she has to file a report, etc. Apparently they were meth heads living in our rental house. Found paraphernalia, but luckily no beginnings of a lab. So spoopy. That wasn't the only time meth heads have broken into our rental property and lived there either. The second time, they tore everything apart. Apparently they were just staying the night because they were out by the time I went through the house. The front door had been broken into, left wide open, which is what tipped me off. Cops couldn't do anything though. Second story. I'm like 18 or 19 at this point, I can't remember. I'm visiting my grandparents in the town over, just shooting the shit, when they decide we're gonna go out for dinner to a town about 45 minutes south of us because awesome barbecue. To get there, we have to go through these long, winding back roads, where coincidentally my other grandparents got in a head-on collision that resulted in the 2 drivers dying instantly at the scene, where there's just old decrepit houses and junkyards everywhere. Grew up on these roads, no big deal. So about 25 minutes out of town, we see a man and a woman just stumbling around on the road. The speed limit is 50. People that live here go faster than that and hardly slow down because we're used to the roads. Okay. My grandma, who is driving, just decides she's gonna go around them. No big deal. Nope. The man flings himself into the road, lays down on his stomach, which forces my grandma to slam on her brakes. The girl immediately starts slamming her hands on the driver window as the dude jumps to his feet and yells at us, asking if we have a problem with him, etc. He starts banging his hands on the front of my grandma's car and she's yelling over the man and the woman for me to call the cops. I whip out my phone and just as I'm dialing the number, the dude pulls out a beer bottle from his shitty cargo jeans and just full on smashes it against the windshield. What the hell? He starts screaming about how we attacked him despite us being locked in the car. The girl is going crazy on my grandma's window. Dial 911, tell them where we are, etc. Luckily, 2 other cars going the opposite direction pull over and 2 dudes try restraining the guy. The girl just goes mental and starts clawing at the guys holding the methed out guy back, screaming and spitting at them. I get out after telling my grandparents to stay in the car. The girl turns and just jumps on me and oh god, the meth mouth was just awful. She's clawing at my face and pulling at my hair. Before I even can do anything, the couple in the other car pull her off. Luckily, the cops showed up not long after, took our reports and hauled the couple off. This actually is a common thing with the meth heads in my grandparents' neck of the woods. They just wander around town, usually shirtless and sometimes on the highways. The rest that happened to me personally just involved my meth head neighbor breaking into my house. Couldn't open the basement door because it was locked, left muddy footprints everywhere, and breaking into my shed to use our lawnmower to cut other people's lawns for profit. However, I have meth heads in the family, it's terrible. So here's a story that happened to my cousin's dad. Not my uncle by blood or marriage. Cousin's mom, my aunt, never married the guy, so I take this man with a grain of salt because meth has just severely messed him up. He'd call my cousin up at crazy hours of the night and would tell him the FBI was watching him and would walk to my cousin's house, which is an hour away from any town out in the middle of nowhere. At night, talking about how the cops are following him, things like that. He's sober now, but the meth destroyed him, so the guy lived about 3 hours south of me in a part that was just rampant with meth and people, mostly meth heads, disappearing. This place has a trailer park confirmed for inbred families where the cops won't even venture into. That's how screwed up this town is. Apparently, this is about the time he's just getting into meth, way before me or my cousin was born. Had a few buds who helped sell meth from one of the more lucrative, I guess, labs. Dude, he'll be dude from now on, decides that hey, he'll help because LOL free meth or whatever. He's getting into the business right when meth heads are just starting to disappear. The local cops don't do much of a search for them or anything for that matter, because everyone down there are the kind of mind your own business, this is kin shit and we'll deal with it, and just scary rednecks. Dude is sitting at home one night when he hears this frantic knocking at the door. When he opens it, it's one of his friends, all tweaked out and just tripping out, saying about how their boss is planning to kill him, has a hit out on him, etc. Dude is like, what? No, get out of my house. Because he's heard the stories. Just shuts the door on his friend and that's pretty much the last time he ever sees him. One of his boss's friends comes over to his house a few days later, asks if he's heard anything about his friend. Dude is like, haha, funny story, and explains about how he was there the night before he disappeared. Boss's friend tells dude to never ever talk about it again, or else the boss might dump him in the lake too. Dude is like, okay. Never says a word, not even to the cops, who can't do much about an investigation without proof and evidence. After a few more friends end up gone, dude finally decides to get out of Dodge, leaves without warning, etc.
Be me, Mexican. Family has various houses that we rent in order to make a living. Brother was like 24 at the time. One of the houses needed some painting and he went to do it by himself. That street was full of junkies. Mom is called there like an hour later. Results that brother was painting a room with the window open, and a junkie tripping balls saw him, and just like that decided to kill him. Junkie sneaked into the house. Get closer to my bro's back. He felt something was wrong and turned back. Junkie is right there, knife in hand. They both fight. Brother used to be in something like the Mexican National Guard, attending to natural disasters and other things, but they get combat training. Brother disarms him, junkie in a rear naked choke sleeping. Mom comes into the scene, screams, so my brother lets the junkie go before killing him. They both, Mom and Bro, came back to the house that day with a 25-centimeter knife. Screw junkies.
B11. I live in a big-ass house with sisters, stepsisters, cousins, grandma, and a few of my sister's boyfriends. Parents on a worldwide holiday. All of us are eating one night, hear a loud pop and smell burning. Our neighbor's car is on fire. Pop was the tire, which is where it started. Obviously arson. My neighbor and sister's boyfriend put it out. Call the cops. They can't do anything because fire tends to not leave any evidence. The neighbor is a totally chill guy, but thinks stepsister's boyfriend did it because they argued over something earlier. We all think he's being irrational, so we just let it go for a while. Nothing happens in the next few days. Grandma has an argument with sister's boyfriend. Her car got set on fire that night. Super angry, that was Grandpa's favorite car. And you know, we could have all died. Everyone starts to think it's stepsister's boyfriend, who we will call Ryan from now on. We get security guards to watch our property for a few nights. Our bin is set on fire one night. Guards see some fat guy jumping our fence and driving off. Ryan is thin and was with us the whole time. Everyone is scared. Random arson attacks do that to people. Everyone stops thinking Ryan did it. Life goes on for 2 weeks or so. Ryan and stepsister go to step-sibling's house, argues with 10-year-old step-brother. His room gets set on fire, nearly killing everyone. Ryan gets arrested. Ryan and stepsister get kicked out. Ryan gets off scot-free because he's crazy. Stepsister marries him, has a kid, divorces him, and is now with an abusive meth head. We don't talk to her anymore. TLDR, screwed you Ryan, you too Katrina.
Last week. Driving through downtown in the middle of the day, very busy. A person is jaywalking. Pretty annoyed, but they have the right of way. They were really jittery and seemed to not be trying to cross the street. They just kinda wandered into it. As soon as my car reaches a complete stop, her head snaps right towards me, and she begins screeching at me and sprinting at my car. I don't know what to do. I am shocked for a good few seconds. By that time, she was at my car trying to break the glass to get to me, and was yelling that the voices were making her do this. I burn out and throw her off the hood, and then jet a foe. Was terrifying. Dunno if drugs or loony.
Last Saturday night, my area, southern USA, was hit with some strong thunderstorms. I was at work through most of it, but I got home around 1 a.m. The lightning show was pretty great on my drive back home, which takes about 30 minutes because I live rurally. Huge bolts of lightning streaked across the sky. Anyway, I noticed the power was out on my street, which winds through the hills and thick forest dotted by the occasional house. I couldn't see anything when I got home, not even enough to get the key in the door. I had to use my headlights to see. The house was pitch black and boring, so I decided to grab a mag light, a bottle of rum, and some cola, and hit the carport and continue watching the lightning. I know it's still sort of fresh in my mind since it was only a few days ago, but I still feel extremely uneasy after dark here. That night, I fumbled around to find my fishing chair to get seated for what I thought was going to be a long night of self-reflection and weather viewing. As the lightning flashed, I could see a lot of the cattle field on my property. Some lightning flashes were so bright it almost appeared like some bizarre daylight for brief moments, which was pretty cool, but turned out very helpful as the night progressed. What looked like 2 tall bushes that weren't there before caught my eye near the barn. I waited for the next flash of lightning to inspect further. With each successive flash, what I thought were bushes had moved from their previous positions from the barn. They were getting closer. I became uneasy and felt like running, but also felt like debunking. I stayed seated in the darkness. Another bush-shaped thing caught my attention, seemingly coming from around the backside of the barn. Now there were 3. I didn't want to believe it might be people walking toward my house, but the more I watched, the more I was convinced. They were getting relatively close up on me after a few minutes. Details emerged with each flash. At this point, I knew the figures were people in maybe dark-colored ponchos or robes. It was hard to tell. I started to get angry because they were on my territory, and I felt threatened, and admittedly vulnerable since I can't get a good cell phone signal out here anyway. And when it rains, I'm out of luck for service. I flung out of my chair when the growling started, but it was just the cat getting territorial next to me. At that point, my heart was throbbing in my throat. I was shaking and my stomach was hurting. In a matter of maybe 10 minutes, I went from feeling serene with nature to pissing myself in fear as I watched these 3 people coming toward my house. As my balls descended, I turned my mag light onto the figures coming up toward the fence line. Definitely men. The one guy that I shined my light on put his hand over his eyes. What the hell are they doing on my property? And what business do they have with me during a power outage where I'm completely helpless? Do they need help or are they here to screw with me? I didn't want to find out the hard way if they were here to screw with me, so I scrambled into the house, nearly trampling the cat who fled inside with me. My rifle, where the hell is it? Where did I put the goddamn bullets? Finally, I got the rifle loaded and went back to the window and saw that they had hopped the fence. They came into my yard and separated into 3 directions. I could only witness this in segments provided by the lightning. One was coming to the door where I was, and the other 2 were going around opposite corners of my house. I was being robbed. These people were going to try to get inside my house and do who knows what to me and my belongings. I stood with my back against the wall next to the kitchen door, waiting in the dark. My only help was the flashes of lightning. The banging started. The kitchen door rattled with fast, hard knocking. I was still with utter fear. I heard the sliding glass door being knocked on, then the front door. I was screwed. Absolutely. All 3 of my doors were rattling. Then the sounds moved toward the windows. They were just slapping and banging all over what seemed like the entire house. It sounded like there were 10 of them. All of a sudden, I heard a different noise like a boom, and simultaneously the power came back on. The light in the kitchen suddenly blinded me. I screamed in terror because I thought I was dead until I realized what just happened. The knocking and banging stopped immediately. I heard what kind of sounded like very faint, snickering and scuffling from the carport connected to the kitchen door, which is notorious for echoing. I was still too afraid to move, afraid they were still out there, or maybe even inside the house. I was extremely disoriented. I wanted to throw up. I finally got the courage to look outside and no one was there. I searched the house and it was empty. Once I realized I had a clear shot through the carport, I got in my car and left. I went to my parents' house and filed a police report. My folks were freaked out by how I was acting. My mom was borderline hysterical. I was still freaked out hours later, and I didn't want to go back home. An officer called us back a couple of hours later to tell me they didn't find anyone around my property and that it was probably safe to go home. I dropped by my house the next morning just to check on my cat and feed him, and also to see that everything at home was still in order. But I didn't go home to stay until after work the next night. I was still extremely uneasy and quick to jump at the slightest noise. I'm still checking outside my windows at night. I can barely sleep.
This happened to me last night. I'm a sheriff's deputy in rural New Mexico. Get a call to a small town way out in the county. The caller is reporting 3 suspicious persons behind her house. Me and my partner drove out, searching the area. See no one out. See that the house behind the reporting party has the front door wide open. This is strange as it's 2 a.m. Oh shit, the house is probably being burglarized. Me and my partner get out and approach the door, firearms out, crouching on opposite sides of front door. We're checking to determine if we should make entry. Partner is on point. He's looking through the door with a flashlight. Sees nothing. Turns away to look around the side of the house. Turns back, immediately screams and moves back from the door. The red light is on his chest. I think my partner is about to die. I swing around the door, gun in low, ready. See old man, red light coming from hands. Immediately draw up on him, gun center mass, gonna kill this dude before he kills me. Partner sees me about to do this, shoves me aside, shouting, "Don't shoot, don't shoot." I don't shoot. We calmed down, and it turns out the red light was from a small lead flashlight and not a gun light as I had assumed. My partner had turned around and seen the man suddenly in the doorway, just staring at him. He was old, had no shirt, and looked very corpse-like, so my partner had thought he was a ghost for a second and was startled. It was the scariest thing ever, especially since I came close to accidentally killing someone.
B19. Alone in a shady hotel in the backcountry of Uganda, working on relief effort plans late at night. Automatic gunfire unleashes through the street of a shady hotel and also shooting at shady hotel. Nope. Jump on the ground and piss my pants. Grenade or some sort of explosive is thrown across the street, away from the hotel. Lay on the ground with hands overhead for 2 hours. Hotel staff come to room. Hotel staff say, a group of rebels came through, killing people in the night. You need to leave now. No more questions asked, and noped out of there, and head for Gulu, where UN peacekeepers were stationed. At most hotels, they have armed guards with AK-47s 24 hours of the day. Our guard was killed in the fight. I can't remember the district or city I was in when that happened, but I was somewhere in between Kampala and Gulu. That was my first week out of 4 that I was in Uganda. Luckily, the rest of the trip was uneventful, other than being fed monkey meat. Not going to lie, was pretty good until one of our guides told me what it was after letting me eat it. Would I go back? Sure would. Makes me more appreciative of what we have here.
B15. Parents threw me out of the house at midnight after finding drugs in my room, like I give a fuck. MP4. Pack my backpack and get a sleeping bag. It's summer, so sleeping outside is no problem. Find a lonely spot in the industrial part of town, put the sleeping bag down on the edge of the parking lot that borders the building. Cozy little alcove. Go to sleep. Bit spooky being so alone and quiet, but fall asleep. Wake up to hear liquid pattering down onto my sleeping bag. Fuck rain, man. Wait, I'm in the alcove. How can it be raining on me? Poke head out of the sleeping bag, some guy is pissing on me. What the fuck are you doing? Yell at him for being a creep. Get out of the sleeping bag to kick his ass. He runs off like a goddamn Kenyan. Fucking piss-soaked sleeping bag, goddammit. Wait, this doesn't smell like piss. It was lighter fluid.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more green texts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.
Remember to check out the Odyssey page in the description for a second archive of the channel's videos.
There's also a Rumble archive as a backup.